Life's storms are not meant to break you. They're meant to teach you how to rise higher. Mistakes are not signs of weakness. They're steps toward strength. Keep flying. The sky belongs to the brave. High above the mountains, where the air turned thin and cold, a young falcon named Arin tried to spread his wings against the morning wind. He had watched the elder falcons glide through the clouds with power and grace, their golden feathers flashing in the sunlight. But whenever Arin tried to follow, his wings wobbled, and he tumbled back toward the cliffs below. Each fall hurt more than the last. He would land in the dust, wings bruised, pride shattered. "Maybe I'm not meant to fly high," he muttered bitterly. The older falcons only shook their heads and flew away, leaving him in silence. Arin's nest sat on the edge of a rocky ledge that looked down on a wide green valley. Every day he saw animals moving freely, deer, foxes, even crows, all living without needing to climb so high. "Why do I even try?" he whispered one evening, watching a distant thundercloud build in the west. "Maybe the sky isn't meant for me." That night, the winds began to howl. The air grew colder, heavier. His mother warned him, "A storm is coming. Arin, stay in the nest and wait it out." But something restless stirred inside him, the same fire that once made him dream of flying high. He looked toward the darkening horizon. The clouds seemed to call his name. "If I can fly through that," he thought, "maybe I'll finally prove I belong in the sky." The next morning, when the first lightning split the clouds, Arin jumped from the cliff straight into the storm. The storm hit harder than Arin had ever imagined. The wind roared through the cliffs like a wild beast, shaking every feather on his small body. Rain stung his wings as he tried to flap harder, but the air pushed him down again and again. Lightning flashed, blinding him for a second, and thunder followed like the growl of a giant. He tried to rise above the storm, but his wings were too weak. "Just a little higher," he cried, fighting the wind with all his strength. But the harder he tried, the more the storm threw him off balance. Finally, a strong gust slammed into him, and he spun helplessly toward the ground. Arin crashed into a muddy field far below. Pain shot through his body as he tried to move. His wings ached, his feathers were soaked, and his pride was broken. For hours, he lay there in the rain, shivering and ashamed. When the storm finally passed, an old owl landed beside him. The owl's eyes were calm, wise, and full of light. "That was a foolish thing to do," the owl said gently. Arin frowned. "I wanted to prove I could fly like the others. But I failed." The owl studied him for a moment. "You didn't fail, young one. You just tried to fight the storm before learning how to use it." Arin looked up, confused. "Use the storm? How can anyone do that?" The owl spread its wide, weathered wings. "The wind that pushes you down is the same wind that can lift you higher, if you learn how to ride it." Arin stared at him in silence. The idea sounded impossible, but something in the owl's voice felt true. "Rest now," the owl said softly. "Tomorrow, I'll teach you what the storm was trying to show you." As the sun began to rise over the soaked valley, Arin realized something. Maybe mistakes weren't meant to break him. Maybe they were meant to teach him how to fly. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind clear skies and the smell of wet earth. Arin stretched his sore wings and looked toward the rising sun. The old owl sat nearby on a fallen branch, his feathers shining silver in the early light. "Are you ready to begin?" the owl asked. Arin nodded weakly. "But I still don't understand. How can the same wind that threw me down ever lift me up?" The owl smiled. That's what we're going to learn. He pointed one wing toward the open sky. Fly with me, not against the wind, but beside it. At first, Arin hesitated. His last attempt had ended painfully. But then he took a deep breath, spread his wings, and followed. The wind was still strong, but instead of fighting it, he tried to feel its rhythm. He noticed how the owl tilted his wings slightly, letting the air glide under instead of pushing through it. "Don't rush," the owl called out. "Listen to the air. It speaks if you stop trying to shout over it." Arin tried again, slower this time. The gusts lifted him slightly. Then he angled his wings as the owl had shown, and suddenly, for the first time, the wind caught him right. He rose a little higher, his heart pounding with surprise. He laughed. "I did it!" The owl nodded. "Now you see, storms don't destroy strong wings. They shape them." For days, Arin practiced. He learned how to twist, dip, and rise with the moving air. He discovered that every strong gust carried both danger and power. The trick wasn't to resist it, it was to understand it. By the end of the week, he could glide gracefully beside the owl, soaring higher each time. He was still small, still learning, but he no longer feared the wind. Because now, Arin realized, every mistake he made was not a failure. It was a teacher. Days turned into weeks, and Arin's confidence grew with every flight. He soared across valleys, rode on mountain winds, and greeted the sunrise from heights he once only dreamed of. The owl often watched from below, smiling quietly at the young falcon's progress. But one afternoon, dark clouds began to gather again over the mountains, thick and heavy, just like the day he first fell. Arin's heart tightened. The sky rumbled, and cold winds swept across the cliffs. The owl looked up at the sky. "It seems the storm has returned," he said calmly, Arin's feathers ruffled nervously. "Last time, I almost lost everything." "Yes," the owl replied, "but last time, you fought against it. What will you do this time?" Arin took a deep breath and looked at the darkening sky. He could feel the wind pulling and twisting. The old fear whispered inside him, "What if I fall again?" But another voice, quieter, wiser, answered, "You've learned. Trust what you've learned." As the rain began to fall, Arin spread his wings. The wind pushed hard, but he didn't fight it. He tilted, dipped, and let the air guide him. The storm roared louder, yet he stayed steady, rising with every gust. Lightning flashed nearby, but this time he didn't panic. He turned with the wind, slicing through it like a blade of light. The owl watched from below, a proud smile spreading across his face. "He's flying through it," he whispered. Up above, Arin was no longer afraid. Every drop of rain felt like a memory. Every gust, a lesson he had once failed to understand. He wasn't just surviving the storm, he was dancing with it. When the clouds finally broke and sunlight poured through, Arin hovered high above the peaks, his wings steady and strong. The wind that once knocked him down now carried him higher than ever before. He realized something powerful. You can't control the storm, but you can control who you become because of it. When the storm finally calmed, the sky opened into a breathtaking sea of gold and blue. The clouds parted like soft curtains, and sunlight poured across the valley. Arin hovered high above, his chest rising with deep, steady breaths. Below him, rivers sparkled, trees swayed gently, and distant mountains glowed under the returning light. He had never seen the world from this high before. It felt endless, beautiful, alive. The old owl joined him in the open air, wings spread wide. "You've done it," he said proudly. "You didn't just survive the storm. You learned to fly with it." Arin smiled, his feathers still damp but glowing in the light. "It wasn't easy," he said. "There were times I wanted to stop trying. Times I thought I'd never rise again," the owl nodded. "And yet, here you are. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the strength to keep flying even when fear follows you." Arin looked down at the valley where smaller birds watched in awe. He could see young falcons trying their first flights, struggling as he once did. A soft determination filled his heart. "Maybe I can help them," he said. "The way you helped me," the owl's eyes gleamed. "That is how wisdom survives, by being shared." From that day forward, Arin became known among the falcons as the one who danced with the storm. When others feared the wind, he guided them, teaching that failure is not the end but the first step toward strength. Every time a storm rolled over the mountains, the younger birds would watch as Arin soared fearlessly through it, not to show off, but to remind them, the sky does not belong to those who avoid the storm. The sky belongs to the brave, to those who keep flying when the wind turns against them. As the sun began to set, the mountain peaks turned golden once more. Arin perched on a high rock, watching the younger falcons glide through the air. Each one stumbled, struggled, and sometimes fell, just as he once did. But Arin didn't feel pity. He felt pride, because he knew those mistakes were the start of their strength. The owl landed beside him, quiet and content. "You see, Arin," he said, "the wind never changes. It will always test you. But every time you rise again, you change a little more. You grow stronger, wiser, freer." Arin nodded, smiling softly as he looked toward the horizon. The storm clouds were gone, but he no longer feared their return. "I understand now," he said. "The storm wasn't my enemy. It was my teacher." That night, under a sky full of stars, Arin closed his eyes with peace in his heart. He had learned that failure doesn't end a journey. It shapes it.